So I know that you work in the OR. If you would just explain to us exactly where you're looking at and what you're doing in the OR.
Yeah, that's especially in the last year, 18 months, again, I started working more in the trauma world. So I'm working in level 1 and level 2 trauma centers typically, which are how you describe that is they have the most amount of facilities, equipment, and specialized staff that's going to handle the worst of the worst, whether or not a big focus of mine recently has been large body burns. So people that unfortunately catch themselves on fire a lot of different ways, whether or not that's an outside source, whether or not that's self-immolation, a lot of different things, all the way to orthopedic deglovings where somebody might get hit by a car and you actually have the skin that kind of comes right off of you, and all the way to some pretty horrific infections.
Yeah.
And the operating room is a truly unique environment. You have to have a lot of emotional intelligence to know when surgeons and staff members are going through really stressful times, whether or not that's your time to step away or whether or not your time to insert yourself, being hyper focused on what's going on during the surgery. Because a mentor of mine always had said that the best case ever was one that you might be sitting there for hours and hours on end. You've said nothing, but at the end of the case, you're mentally exhausted because you've been focusing on so many small things that are going on between the exchange of different staff members to find your opportunity to provide value, whether or not it's a piece of disposable equipment that you can help with getting off the shelf, whether or not that's giving some last minute advice to a surgeon that's putting on your product for a very new time. Maybe they're doing it, they've run into a case that they've never seen before and they're looking for your advice. You have to be, again, very emotionally intelligent to know when you're going to chime in, what you're going to say, and whether or not you're even the appropriate person to make that statement, and whether or not you need to find somebody else that's got higher levels of training that can give better advice. But you are the ultimate facilitator.
Yeah. How do you handle, dealing with what you're seeing in the OR? Is it hard for you to look at it? It's just, exciting, interesting to look at? What is your viewpoint of being able to be, close to something like that?
Every day is a new adventure. Just about every case that I'm in is something I've never seen before. And it's nice to be with that team that is, even though surgeons, this is something they've never seen before in this specific patient and this specific application. When you're running into things that you've never seen before, you have the opportunity to kind of pace yourself. There's a lot of things going on to potentially distract you with, or even maybe freak you out a little bit. But the importance of realizing that you're there for a very specific goal, that ultimately the patient's outcome, and everybody else in that room is there for that very same purpose. We all are seeing things that are difficult to see. So being professional, taking a few minutes to breathe, maybe even adjusting your eyesight, but coming back into it, finding a way to make that experience uber professional and uber goal oriented for that patient's outcome.
Got it. How clinical do you think you need to be in the OR?
You need to find a healthy mix, especially being a medical device. You are in a position to where you're consulting a surgeon in the outcome of a patient that's on the table. So you need to take that seriously. And most oftentimes, we're one of the only people in the room that doesn't have technical medical training. It's all been done on the job with our individual training departments. You need to know your specific product and products that compete against it better than that surgeon knows it themselves. They have to, of course, know information about, anatomy, reading different charting, different status changes throughout the case. But when it comes to technology and what's being used in the case, you need to know everything about what you're representing and everything anywhere even related to it. But there's also going to be a point where you have surgeons that are in the heat of battle, that they're asking you things that are potentially off-label, ways that they're going to use the product that aren't suggested by the manufacturer, a lot of things like that. And you also need to be cognizant and emotionally intelligent to realize, hey, I'm not a medically trained individual. I've extended the amount of knowledge that I know about this product. We need an expert on there. So again, you become that facilitator. And you play that interesting role between your company, between the hospital, between the circulating nurses, between the follow-up floors of being that educated facilitator, but you aren't a doctor typically.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. I think you definitely explained that perfectly. When you're needing to introduce new products to the doctor, after you've seen a certain procedure, how do you go about that?
It's got to be again, going back to strategy. You have to say you've just seen a case and you see a potential opportunity to use your product in a follow-ups with something like that. You have to get an emotional charge, an emotional feel from that surgeon, how they like to be interacted with, whether or not it's on a clinical space, where they like to hear only about the clinical aspects of the product, about how it's used, and they don't really want to be friends. And that happens all the time. You have some that like, again, you're in the heat of battle with them. They like somebody that they can get along with over a long period of time, and they know that they're there to support. And then you have individuals that just like to be involved with industry. You've got your whole kind of gambit of people. But again, getting an emotional feel from that surgeon saying, hey, that was a really difficult case. They got really frustrated by it. Maybe I shouldn't bring up a better way to do it within 5 or 10 minutes. I'll give them a few days to process what happened during that case, realize a couple different ways they might have been able to do it better, and then provide a couple of suggestions. Yeah. On the other end, you have to, again, be cognizant where you are in, let's say, a trauma case, and there's a lot of different residents moving around, attending surgeons, and there's a lot of confusion going on. That's your opportunity to bring up something right then, right there. I don't know how to fix this patient. Hey, doctor, there's 3 clinical studies that apply directly to this when using our product. If you want, you could take a quick look at them over the course of 60 seconds. Obviously you want them to take a little bit longer, but here's a great application, a large clinical trial to use and fix this situation. So again, there's no magic sauce, there's no magic bullet. It's feeling your environment and inserting yourself when appropriate. And sometimes you're going to hit that out of the park, and you're going to find a surgeon that looks you in the eye and say, thank you so much for bringing that up at the right time and place. And sometimes you're going to realize that you brought it up at the wrong time, and you might have a surgeon that says some not too nice things to you, or potentially kicks you out of their OR for the day.
Yeah.
It's part of the job. It's part of the job.
Right. It's just part of the job. Hopefully that never happens. I've never had that happen, but usually my product is very simple. So it's like, they'll probably yell at me if I don't explain little things, but I totally agree, making sure you say the right things at the right time, because it can definitely hurt you or help you.